team mother-in-law who once cast me out and left me alone was now trembling at my door, with no idea that my next move would change her life forever. When I opened the door, the cold air sank straight into my bones, but the woman, my former mother-in-law, Linda, was standing there trembling as if she wasn't battling the weather, but a storm inside herself. Her eyes met mine, and for a moment I was pulled back to the night she threw me out of the house in front of the entire family. Just one sentence: "You're not worthy of our son, Maddie." And I was standing outside, my daughter in my arms, with nowhere to go. For Linda, it may have been a moment of anger, but for me, it became the foundation of years on which my life broke apart and rebuilt itself again and again. Today, she was standing at that same door, the one she once said I would never be able to call my own, and in her hands was nothing but an old coat, its sleeves torn and faded in places by the sun. I opened the door a little wider, searching her face for the same pride that had once pierced me so deeply, but all I found was exhaustion and fear. "Maddie." "I didn't know where else to go," she said with her head lowered, as if the words weren't slipping out of her mouth, but being dragged out against her will. My heart started pounding, but I stayed silent. I had spent years lying awake at night, staring at the ceiling, imagining what I would say if she ever stood in front of me again. Sometimes I thought I would scream. Sometimes I imagined slamming the door in her face. But now that she was actually there, instead of a scream, a strange, numbing quiet spread through me. "Come inside," I said softly. She flinched, as if she couldn't believe I was letting her in. I hadn't believed it myself either. But life has moments where action comes before thought, where the heart makes a decision all on its own. When she stepped inside, the smell of coffee in my small kitchen wrapped around us, holding us in an uneasy but familiar silence. I noticed her hands were still shaking. "What happened?" I asked directly, the kind of straightforward American bluntness I had learned working in diners, stores, and along the lakeshore. She took a long breath before speaking. "Dane, he disappeared 2 weeks ago. Someone told me he might be buried in debt. I can't find him." Dane, my ex-husband. The man who had left me with a single gesture from Linda. The man who refused to pay child support. The man who once said my presence in his life was a burden. I didn't respond right away. I sat down, resting my elbows on the table, as if an old weight had settled back onto my shoulders. "And what do you want from me, Linda?" Her voice broke. "Just help. Just listen to me. I know I treated you terribly. But I'm alone, and I don't know where to look for my son." For a moment, everything came rushing back. The winters when my daughter and I stuffed towels under doors to keep the cold out. The days I worked 2 jobs and came home to a fridge with nothing but milk inside. The years it took to rebuild a life from nothing. And now the woman who had helped destroy that life was sitting in front of me, asking for help. I studied her face closely. For the first time, I saw the same vulnerability I used to see every day in the mirror. "Linda, I was never your enemy," I said quietly. "You decided I was. And your son believed you, and walked away from us." She said nothing, gripping her hands together as if trying to keep herself from falling apart. "Maddie, I'm sorry. Truly. I never really saw you. I only saw what I was told, that you were weak, that you were poor, that my son deserved better. But today," her voice cracked. "Today I realize I'm the weak one." Something inside my chest loosened, not revenge, but a heavy knot that had been sitting there for years. "Where could Dane be?" I finally asked. She explained that the police hadn't found much. He had been doing under-the-table work, running with sketchy people. Maybe he ran. Maybe he was hiding. Maybe worse. I listened to everything. My heart wasn't made of stone. It had been broken, yes, but never hardened. And maybe that was my greatest strength. "All right," I said with a small nod. "We'll try to find him. But understand this, I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing it for the little girl whose father is missing, and for the woman I've become." Tears welled in her eyes, but this time they weren't tears of pride. They were tears of real defeat, the kind that changes a person. We spent the night talking through places, names, possibilities. I reached out to old contacts, people who had helped me survive when I had nothing. The kind of help that, in a country like America, feels nothing short of a small miracle. 2 days later, we found Dane at a halfway house. He looked weak, worn down, ashamed, but alive. Linda's legs gave out when she saw him, and for the first time, I saw a kind of love on her face that I had never been given. When Dane saw me, he lowered his eyes. "Maddie. I'm sorry." I nodded. "I know. But this isn't my problem anymore. Take care of your mother. And be the kind of father to your daughter that you never even tried to be." As I walked back to my car, the air was still cold, but inside me was a quiet warmth, like I had finally set down a burden I'd been carrying my whole life. Did I get revenge? Maybe. But not the kind you see in movies. In real life, revenge is quiet. It's getting back up after being broken. It's watching the people who once called you weak now look for shelter in the strength you built on your own. And Linda, the last time I saw her, she was standing at my door, holding onto its frame. The same door frame that once threw me out was now the thing holding her upright. If this story moved you, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. It truly helps more than you know. Your support allows these real, human stories to reach others who need them. Thank you for staying until the end, for listening with your heart, and for being part of this growing community.